Welcome back to Umbrella Rebellion. I am your tour guide into the depths of Bill Gothard's mind via IBLP's Men's Manual. Are you ready to get into this next page about children and their rebellion? Because I don't know about you, but that last page, it just felt like it was setting up an excuse for the dads to blame rebellion on the children, but also that the fathers were the cause of the rebellion. So it could go either way. Because we know in IBLP, rebellion was always blamed on sin or stepping out of the umbrella of protection, doing something you weren't supposed to. Let's get into this next page. Can you detect early warning signs of rebellion? And we have a checklist because what's culty learning without a checklist, right? Imagine people with ADHD being drawn into this cult because of checklists. I don't know, may have been me. May have been one of the reasons that I kind of got sucked in. Awareness of tension between parents. When a child senses conflict between the parents, the child tends to take up an offense against one or both parents and ultimately rejects the authority of both parents. So this take up offense thing is very common, which bothers me because the way it is taught in the cult that you're not supposed to take up offenses for others. He's saying that because of the parents' behavior that the children will do something that is not okay with the cult, but then we know that a lot of children are blamed for their behavior despite their parents' behavior. That's not, oh, you get a pass because your parent did this. That doesn't happen. Accusations that parents are showing favoritism. A child has a keen sense of fairness. Once a parent shows unfairness, the child will feel rejected and accuse the parent of favoritism. This will produce seeds of resentment, which grow into rebelliousness. I kind of agree with this one. Children don't understand that each child in a home has different needs based on their abilities, their strengths, and their weaknesses. A child doesn't understand that. When you're in this cult, there can be a real sense of perceiving unfairness. There was a lot of tension that was built between me and my older sister. And some of it was because of my parents' treatment of her, because she was a rule follower. I hated rules and I was willing to take consequences for things I wanted to do. The consequences were never severe. I was not disciplined the way my younger siblings were. There was a real perceived unfairness and mistreatment of me as opposed to my sister, but also my parents' way that they dealt with some of those differences was to compare me to my sister, ask me why I can't be more like my sister. My parents were young parents when my sister and I were born. They did their best with the information that they had. I always take into account where we were in society at the time this was happening and my parents' ability to know good child development skills. I don't harbor any resentment towards my parents because of this. It's just a fact of what happened. I never felt like my parents were proud of me until way into adulthood. So anyway, side quest, personal story. Something that I've done in my parenting, and I believe I got this from my older sister, and I thought it was wise. I haven't evaluated that again in a long time. When my children were smaller, I had one with severe ADHD, I had one on the autism spectrum, and I had a toddler. There was always this sense of unfairness of where I spent my time because I had a child with high needs with sensory, one with high needs of attention, and my oldest has a very strong sense of fairness. Anything that looked like unfairness to him would cause a lot of contention in our home. What I started trying to explain to my children when they were young is different child, different parenting, because this child needs is not what you need. It didn't cure it. I hope as they grow into adults, they realize that it wasn't being unfair. It was meeting my children where they were at to fulfill the needs that they had at that time. And every child's needs are different. Do you have any parenting tips like that for someone who is deconstructing and doesn't want to repeat some of these same patterns that our parents did to harm us? I think it's very important for us to share what we have landed on so that we may be able to help others that are struggling with how do I do this differently? Because we have no idea because we weren't exposed to any different parenting because they isolated us. Are they a cult tactic? Or am I the only one with ADHD that can be enticed into a cult with a pretty checklist? Let me know if those checklists got you too. I'm Dee, your guide into the depths of IBLP's men's manual and the twisted beliefs of Bill Gothard. Let's continue finding out how we can spot the early signs of rebellion in children. Let's get into this. Feelings of inferiority and evidence of self rejection. If a son or daughter rejects the design of unchangeable physical features, he or she will also tend to reject the designer and his authority in daily living. So, this first column are the behaviors you're supposed to look for as signs of rebellion. It's not like a cause and effect like we had in the previous page. My brain was like, what? Now, the unchangeable, I have shared this on several of the videos throughout the podcast, but if you want to know my personal experience as it pertains to Bill Gothard and an unchangeable of mine, you can go look at the old episode, Dee's Headquarters, I believe it is the episode. It's like one of the first 5 or 6 videos in our whole entire series. It is on podcast or YouTube. I have my own personal experience about Bill Gothard and his unchangeables. Rejecting the designer, that's one of his teachings, that if you desire to have something different about you that is not changeable because God designed you that way, then you're going to reject God. I guess he's telling fathers to make sure that they're not making their children feel this way. I don't know that that ever was not a thing in this cult. If you were in this cult, especially as a daughter, let me know if your father heeded these directions, suggestions. Loyalty to friends who reject authority. Wrong friends corrupt right living. Also, a son or daughter tends to choose friends who will openly do what that son or daughter secretly wants to do. So be suspicious of everyone. Be suspicious. Be suspicious. Don't trust a damn thing. And your child cannot be uninfluenced by anyone around them. They are susceptible to all forms of temptation, and you have to make sure that you do not let them have any experience with temptation outside of your belief system, because that will cause your children to rebel. Maybe it's because you did not teach your son or daughter to, I don't know, stand up on their own 2 feet and be confident in what they are and who they are, because that's how you get to children not falling for everything. Is you give them a sense of value in how they were created and their personality and their strengths. I don't know. It's weird. But yeah, there's a lot of distrust in this cult. And that is another form of isolationism, which they swore that they were only insulating, not isolating. Let me know what your thoughts are on this checklist of signs that your child will rebel. Do you agree that these are signs of rebellion? Do you agree that these things are actually going to happen? It's like Bill Gothard attempted to teach fathers how to instill self-confidence and appreciation for oneself into this, and just miss the mark with the wording that he used, because it was woo-woo and progressive to think about self-confidence and being true to oneself in that community and in the time period of the late 70s, early 80s when this was booming. Let me know what your thoughts are. With that, I will end this episode. If somebody has not told you today or ever, I am proud of you.